The hero can only be as great as the villain. And the strength of the opposition is how you judge how great the hero is. There's some really huge challenges out there. Some things people choose to do are absolutely horrible. And I understand when people look at these things and go, how can there be a God when there's all of this evil and pain and suffering in the world?
Welcome to Living God's Light, a podcast to help you strengthen your spirituality and your connection with God. We are so happy to have you as a part of the Living God's Light family.
Welcome to the Living God's Light podcast. I'm Vinny Tolman.
I'm Alan Smith.
I'm Lindsay Young.
I'm Lynn Taylor.
Welcome today. Today we are going to cover the last two principles of the 10 principles that I was taught during my near-death experience. These last two, we're combining them because they go hand in hand. It's almost as if one is one end of the dumbbell or barbell and the other is the other end. The first one, this one is hard for some people to understand that there is purpose even in evil. And the way it was explained to me in my experience is that if we didn't have bad decisions, we wouldn't be able to make decisions. We would just make good decisions all the time. So it was really important for us to have the ability to make bad decisions, including evil. And that's the purpose of it, is for us to have that as an option so we can choose not to do it. We can choose to have the power of not doing that and have the blessings of not doing that. I don't know, what do you guys think? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think we've always been taught that there's opposition in all things.
Mm-hmm.
And without the opposition, we can't know that the good from the, if there's no evil, there's no good. It all becomes one thing, and it doesn't work. You have to have that opposition in order to have growth.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to grow, if you're going to have the experience of learning, you have to have had some experience of things not working and things that are pushing back against your desire to be the good person.
Yeah. And, same as if you haven't experienced sorrow, then you can't know joy. And really, it's being in those depths of sadness or whatever, feeling or emotion you have that allows you to really indulge in those joyous moments when you have them and be like, well, this is what I want. This feels really good because I know what the other side feels like. It doesn't feel great. So it's like a gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As a writer, one of the things you learn as the hero can only be as great as the villain. And because if the hero doesn't have really any challenges to overcome, or if they don't have a very strong or brilliant, or basically the strength of the opposition is how you judge how great the hero is. And in life, if we didn't have those, because honestly, there's some really huge challenges out there. Some things people choose to do are absolutely horrible. And some of the physical things, cancer is awful. There's a whole lot of other diseases and things that are awful that and I understand when people look at these things and go, how can there be a God when there's all of this evil and pain and suffering in the world? And going through the book, there's that question that comes up, and Drake talks about how, what would you do differently? Yes, they're horrible challenges, and it's comforting to know that really when we're outside of this experience, when we leave this mortal realm, we get that big picture again, all of those pains and everything just get washed away in an instant. I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand. It was the depths of those struggles, how strong those challenges were that made me strong in response. They give us an opportunity to exercise that compassion in great depth and experience that love for other people in all of its pure forms, that we wouldn't be stretched and have that pressure and that resistance if it wasn't for the strength of that opposition.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say there's a lot of opposition out there in the world, and there are evil people.
Mm-hmm.
I just read a book from our friend Celeste Edmonds called Garbage Bag Girl, about the evil experiences and the evil people that she had in her life through her upbringing and how she overcame those things. And what an amazing, inspirational person she is because of those things that she overcame.
Mm-hmm.
And how, we have the ability to grow from that. And it's not always happy to look back and understand that we've been in those spaces, but it gives us a lot of opportunity for growth.
And we can learn from those who have been evil in the past and what caused them to lean that way, because they didn't just wake up one day as an evil person. Most of them started out with some form of isolation, whether it was a child or as a teenager or as just being a cast out of their society. And there's two studies that I love to reflect on as I work with people. One of those studies is of rats, and they put rats in a pool. I don't agree with the study, but they wanted to see how long the rat would swim before it would drown. And so they averaged, it was a few minutes. I think it was around 25 minutes that the rats would try to swim and then they would drown. Now, if they changed it and at minute 24, someone came in and saved the rat, and then the next day they put that same rat in the pool, it will keep trying to swim for 65 hours. So knowing that there's a network, a possibility of help or hope, that changes us completely. And how important it is for us to recognize that we need to be that mouse calling out for help. And to me, that help we get from not the evil scientist trying to drown us, but we get it from God, from our Creator. And the other study is also with rats. They put rats in isolation and they gave them access to cocaine with water. And so they could take hits on this cocaine with water. And while in the isolation, they became completely addicted. They would pretty much slouch down next to that water thing and just keep drinking constantly. But here's what's weird. As soon as they introduced 2 more rats in that environment, they would have another water that was clean. As soon as they introduced 2 more rats, so now it was 3 rats, they all would stay away from the cocaine and water. Mm-hmm. And so, part of what we can find in ourselves is if we're seeing a darker side of ourselves come out, find your community, find your family, and cling to them. Put yourself in your uncomfortable place around others. And like those rats, we won't seek out those things that are harmful for us. Drake, my guide, who explained all this stuff to me, he equated it to bodybuilding. Not having bad choices would be like going into a gym without any weights, without any workout equipment. If there's no choices of good and bad, then we're losing the opportunity of growth. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here in Earth School, is so that we can make those choices. But yeah, what do you guys think?
It made me think about, and the word evil is pretty intense and
Mm-hmm.
harsh, and if you scale it back to just light and dark, it makes me think about doing shadow work. Doing shadow work with yourself and seeing all parts of yourself. And, I've read a lot of material lately, just encouraging stuff that you can, when you fully integrate your shadow into your light for them to meet, is when you can truly know and love yourself. Because we all have light pieces, we all have dark pieces. It's all sides of the spectrum. And I think it's really important to recognize that, to explore it a little. I guess just don't label it evil and say no. But if that's somewhere you're finding yourself, observe, become aware of it, but recognize that, staying away from it and building a wall against, darkness inside of you, I think will build walls elsewhere that aren't going to be helpful.
It's like what we were talking earlier. If we become anti-darkness or anti-evil, we'll actually start inviting darkness and evil.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's about what we're focused on. Yeah. I love you talking about the light and the dark and the shadow work. Again, in shamanism, we're talking about Huascar, and he is the guide to the underworld and the guide of working through shadows. And shadow work is all about understanding what we're not, and looking at the things that we're not, so that we better understand who we are. And I think that that's the key, is understanding more of who we are and more of who we're not, so that we can move forward and that we can be focused and use those other principles that we've already talked about, avoiding negative influences, managing all of those pieces in a positive way. How do we use technology responsibly, and being authentic with ourselves, I think makes a big difference.
Well, I think it also plays into transitioning into that last principle, that we are all one, that the more we see that, the more we realize, like you said, that we're all fingers on the hand. And that as we can see other people, see ourselves in other people, see them in us, that it helps us to no longer have it be an us versus them. It's more of a we're all in this together, and we all have struggles. And like you said, when you introduce those other people to lean on, those other influences, many times out of shame or fear or embarrassment, we don't reach out when we're experiencing those troubles. And Lindsay, I'm glad you mentioned that, English is kind of a weird language, and we call it evil, but there's a lot of things that are not necessarily like evil, but they're hard, and they're challenges, and they're things we'd rather not go through. But like weights in the gym, I don't go to the gym because it's comfortable. I go because it's good for me. I didn't necessarily come to Earth School because it's comfortable. I come because it's good for me. But realizing that we're all one and we're all in this together, and if we reach out and build those communities that strengthen us and support us, and we create positive things, working together, we can replace those weeds with the grass, as we talked about in previous episodes, and leaning into how we are all one, and a community, and building and supporting each other helps us to get stronger together. It's like having a spotter when you're lifting weights.
Which is the other end of the barbell.
Yeah, that's the other end, that we are all one, that we're all fingers on God's hands.
Yeah. And doing that shadow work and really seeing the darkness and the light inside of all of us allows us to see us without judgment and with love, and do the same for others. Really, it perpetuates itself, just basically becoming aware that there is darkness. There's darkness inside of all of us. And once we can see it, find it, love it, alchemize it, we can do the same for someone else. And connect with everyone, realizing someone's behavior you may not like, but you have pieces within you that you're working to, become accustomed to and like yourself. That person's on the same journey. We are all one and working together to become, make it back. So having compassion for people going through that.
I think that's the hard part of being here, is recognizing that we all have struggles, and recognizing those struggles in others, finding a way to connect with other people. We see so much upheaval and war and other things around the world between different cultures and different peoples and different ideologies. But if you break it down, we're all children of God. We're all people who have struggles. We all have people that we care about. If we break it down to the smaller pieces, I have somebody that I love. I have children that I love. I have friends and family. And if I recognize that they have needs as well, and look for how can I support them rather than how do I keep them away from me because I don't like that, I think that changes, and we do become more one and more at peace with all of the other things that come up in our lives as we recognize that.
I have an anthropologist friend that he jokingly says that when he digs up skeletons, he can't tell the race, he can't tell the religion, he can't tell if they were good or evil. He can essentially associate what they were born as far as their sexuality, but that's really it. And that's us. You know, we're all the same. We're all flesh and blood. And technically we're spiritual beings inside this flesh and blood body, and having these flesh and blood experiences in these physical bodies. And in this life, we can take these opportunities and learn from them. One for me is, you know, I live in Las Vegas, and there was a shooting there at a festival, a country music festival. And it was tragic, totally tragic. But to watch the miracle of what happened to my community there was a beautiful thing. It brought us together as a community. For the first time, neighbors were talking to each other. Neighbors that had lived for 10 years next to each other were now talking to each other, inviting each other over. And this was a common ground for all of us, that we were all suffering through this tragedy. And what I learned from this is, as that pendulum swings in the direction of evil, the counter reaction is going to be even greater into the light. And that's what we have to recognize in ourselves. That even though we make big mistakes, understand that some of those biggest mistakes are going to lead to our greatest successes, to our greatest moments of growth. And just understanding that objectively, it's an important part of this growing and learning in Earth School.
I know that a lot of as over the years I've worked on having compassion and love for myself, despite the things that I've done that I'm not happy about, the parts of me that I've shed. What has remained through all of that is a compassion and understanding for other people who are also having struggles and trials, and you know, they're embarrassed to say something, and like, that's okay. I totally get it. You'll get through it. It may be something you have a challenge with your whole life, but that's okay. We're in this together. Mm-hmm. We are one. Mm-hmm. And I try to emulate that. Something else, that God loves us as we are right now. Not that God is content for us to stay where we are right now, but God will always love us as we are right now. And as we try to exemplify that love to other people, because we're all one, and as we love people as God loves them, that helps them kind of grow out of those things and become better. And through that, we can all become better together.
Well, and I think understanding that even though we love people, we don't get to choose for them, that we get the opportunity to support them in their good choices and in their growth choices. Can I call them growth choices instead of good choices?
Or bad choices.
Yeah, because I prefer the term growth choices like because that helps us move forward and be in a better place mentally and emotionally as we do that. I think it's really important that we just remember to love one another and to love people the way they are, because that's how God is. God loves us how we are. Mm-hmm. He sent us to experience Earth School and to have growth and to learn to make growth choices.
In the same way that God doesn't want us to ruin our experience here with expectation, we don't need to think that God has some type of expectation on us either. God is our cheerleader, our greatest cheerleader, wants us to do the best possible with what we're given, and is going to cheer us on our successes and going to empathize with us as we have our struggles and our failures. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But cheer us through the learning process of our failures. Yeah.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
Constantly.
We are.
So.
Well, most of us. Lynn over there, he gets a lot done in a day.
Yeah, he does.
Whatever.
He gets a lot done.
I do let it get a lot done, but
so,
still only a fraction of what I've got on my list.
So I'm always about giving you guys challenges. So I'm just sitting here thinking of a challenge or a goal or something for you to work on. As we move forward this week in the things that we're doing, I challenge you to see everyone as God sees them.
Yeah, and I one up your challenge.
Cool.
I one up the challenge.
Wow.
And I say,
Okay.
go
Let's hear it.
to someone you would never traditionally go to and reach out to them. Let them know in a quick moment, buy them a soda or coffee or a breakfast. Someone homeless or someone that you've seen all the time, but you've never had that reaching out moment. It's the season. If you're watching near this time, where it's the holiday season for us right now. So, this is the season, and all year long, it's that season. We can be reaching out, and we can be going over our comfort zone, and realizing that some people that we've thought were emotionally distant from us because they're so different from us, we can do a simple reaching out, and a simple kind gesture can completely change that and change us in a positive way.
Love it.
Thank you for checking in and listening to our podcast today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can check us out at livinggodslight.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the Living God's Light podcast. You can help keep the show going through getting merch at livinggodslight.com or contributing what you think the show is worth on our website or by going through Patreon. Thank you for sharing your light with the world. You are making a difference, and we love you.